Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show, where we celebrate the innovators driving change in the education industry. At Edison OS, we've worked with over 500 knowledge entrepreneurs to turn their EdTech ideas into profitable businesses. Hi, Kunal. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show. Thank you so much for taking your time out to be here with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Jagmohan.
Great. Kunal, my first question to you, you've got a lot of experience in EdTech, and EdTech has been in the news for various reasons, good and bad.
Right.
And I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. It's only, getting better and better with new concepts and innovations. So can you walk us through your journey of, your various EdTech experiences?
Sure. See, first of all, I broadly classify education into four broader segments. One is K-12. The next one is, higher education. Then you have government job prep. And then you have the upskilling segment. And somehow, I have worked in each of these segments at some point or the other.
Yeah.
So all four broader level segments I have covered. Right. Started off as a consulting professional, moved on into higher education. When I worked with higher education, I saw the potential which government job prep had back in 2014. See, government job prep was a very interesting space at that point. Even it's still is, right.
Yeah.
Maybe the vacancies have actually gone down a little bit, but it's very aspirational for people to join a government job. Right?
Yeah.
So and the kind of audience, if you look at it, right, that audience is there in the tier 3, 4 pockets. Pockets where offline, it's only offline. Online has a very limited reach to that audience. Still, every year, around 5, 6, 7 crores applicants appear for government jobs. And I don't even think more than 50 lakh or probably 1 crore could be the one who are still online. Remaining are still operating in the offline space, right? Preparing for these jobs through books or guest papers or maybe certain offline interventions through coaching institutes, right?
Right.
And being myself from a tier 3 city from Bihar, I saw the kind of break it has. I mean, it's a huge gap between how they want to prepare and what they get. So back in 2014, I started off, building something in the government job space.
Right.
We thankfully, I reached out to one VC and they connected me to Daily Hunt. Though Daily Hunt is not, I mean, if you look at Daily Hunt and look at education, it's not correlating well.
Yeah, it's a far cry. Yeah.
But considering the audience which they have in education, right? They thought that yes. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry.
No problem.
I just hope that will not interrupt the call.
That's okay. We will edit it out.
Yeah. So back in 2014, I reached out to VC. They connected me to Daily Hunt, and Daily Hunt, after going through the plan in detail, they thought that rather than actually funding me, let's build this in-house. Right. I joined them as an employee. We built this in-house.
Right.
And we grew it. I mean, we grew it to a level where we had around 1.5 million downloads of the app. I mean, way back in 2015-16, 1.5 million downloads in this online space was quite decent.
Huge, yeah.
And monetization also, we had around 1,200 transactions happening daily. A very, very, very small ARPU, around 10 rupees, 15 rupees. That's what the kind of ARPU we had. But still, 15,000 rupees on a daily basis you have, right? That's a decent revenue, I would say.
Yeah.
But somewhere it got stabilized, right? I mean, no matter how much we tried, beyond the point, it was not scaling up. multiple factors, right? Because if you look at 2016, there was no Geo, there was no UPI, right?
Yes,
All
yes,
these factors later on aided in there was no 4G even, right?
yes, yes,
Only it was at best 3G, correct?
yeah,
So all these factors actually, if I look at it now, had we actually sustained it, it would have, I mean, scaled much faster because
ahead of your time.
we had the users, we had the experience, but we just thought that now it's not scaling up. Let's have a pause and look at something else,
Right.
right? And again, moved into government job, prep segment itself. I then joined a company called Textbook. I would say they are currently the market leaders in the government job prep space.
Okay.
I worked with them as a vice president for strategic alliances and offline business.
Right.
Like I told you, right? In EdTech, right? The key is to actually look at the offline audience, right? And bring them into online mode, right? I mean, if you look at rather than actually acquiring users, see, online is limited, right? I mean, if the entire universe is 100, probably you are still scratching the surface in online with hardly 5 to 10% of the audience.
Wow. Okay.
If you look at offline, right, it's huge, and even small, tuition centers, small local teachers, they also have huge following, right, and
Right.
people are ready to pay for it. So that's a major market which everyone should look at, in terms of capturing. But again, the way the companies operate right now, I mean, probably that's not the way to go about it. Where you are only operating in the offline space. I mean, offline should be a medium to have the experience to the students, and then actually move them online, because then it will be easier for you to have a long term funnel with that user. I mean, you acquire a user offline, and after a year you will have no clue where the user has gone if he remains offline, right? But if he's actually coming to online on your platform, I mean, your LTV could be higher, right?
Right.
your insights could be better, because these students will give you immense insights into how the product should evolve,
Right.
right? So worked with Textbook, and then again Daily Hunt wanted me back, and to build something in the education space again. And this time I picked K-12 as the sector, because I still believe K-12 is, see, in India, if you look at the entire audience of students, almost 90% of this audience is from K-12 alone. Yeah, I guess India had last around 30 crore students at any given point of time. Out of this 30 crores, some 27, 28 crores will be only K-12.
Wow. Okay.
Right. I mean, K-12, I mean class 1 to 12
Yeah.
students
Class one. Right.
who are preparing for even JEE or NEET as well. Of course, now you have classifications like test prep in the same, but I mean,
Yeah.
broader level, yeah.
They fall under K-12.
Right. So then we started buildings in the K-12 space, and like I told you, I always wanted to do something for the tier 2, 3, 4 space. So much before Physics Wala, when they started gaining the prominence, I we built this platform called Daily Learn, where our focus was also on tier 3, 4 segment. Our pricing also, if you looked at it, it was around 3,000, 4,000 rupees, pretty much in the same line of Physics Wala.
Right.
We back in 2020, when everyone else was operating at a price point of 20,000, 30,000, 50,000,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Physics Wala was not there in 2020. Right? We still were operating in this space with the similar price, which is 3,000 to 4,000 rupees. I think what happened is possibly because education at the end, no matter whatever you say, it's at the end a brand play. The parent needs to have that trust that yes, this is a brand which can actually help me. It's more like achieving a hope, right? You have a hope that okay, I can crack JEE, I can actually get 90% marks in my class 10th board, right?
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day, it's a hope which a parent or a student is buying,
Right.
and then that hope is amplified, right? If you are actually getting associated with a brand which is much trustworthy.
Right.
So probably I feel that this brand thing, we were very small, we were incubated by Daily Hunt, right?
Mm.
And not having enough, you could say not. We started very frugally, right? So probably in the initial stage, we were not having that trust or that brand factor.
Right.
But later on, we realized that yes, you know, we tied up with an institute called Super 30 for JE Prep.
Super 30. Right, right, right.
Now, since our audience was tier 3, 4 audience, and Super 30 already aligns with that audience, right?
Right.
It worked pretty well for us. In 3 months to 4 months of span, we had close to 2,500 paid users on our platform at an ARPU of around 3,000, 3,500 rupees, discounting all the pricing discounts which we're offering to the students. Still at an ARPU of around 3,000 rupees, we had around 2,500 users, paid users.
Right.
So pretty decent in a span of 3-4 months.
Yeah.
And I think so it was a very unique engagement with Daily Hunt, where I was actually working with Daily Hunt, right, on their roles. And at the same time, I was incubated by Daily Hunt for this project. Right. So the idea was that we initially got a transfer from Daily Hunt that this is a transfer which we are providing. And then we have set certain KPIs. You hit those KPIs, we give you another tranche. And then probably after the second tranche, we could actually keep it as a separate entity where we will have certain minority stakes and you can have the majority stakes along with it. Then at that point of time, you can bring in other co-founders because by then, there'll be a better understanding of the market, better understanding of the product.
Right.
So that was the whole idea. We started building this. We had this early traction also, but then somewhere last year, around May, June, due to the funding winter, right, they couldn't give us the second tranche, right, and then exactly at that point of time, then we had to go out and seek funds.
Right.
Right. And then there was hardly a runway of around 3 to 4 months with us.
Right.
So we tried, but a pretty bad time for any fundraise, especially in May, June last year. Right.
Yes. Yes.
That too in EdTech, it was even worse.
Yes. Yes.
And in EdTech also in K-12, it was the worst. Right. So I would say just a bad timing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I tried. We could not raise funds. There were a few who actually agreed, but then since Daily Hunt had a little higher majority, a minority stake, right, around they were talking around 30% of stakes. Right? So again, even if someone agreed with Daily Hunt sitting on the cap table with 30%, it became little difficult for us to convince somebody. Right. So finally, we shut it down last year around November. And for the last 4 months, I have been working with another startup called Invac.
Yeah.
Again, more in an advisory or consultant role, you could say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Again, it's more about fixing their user acquisition channels, the user growth. Also, so I'm currently working in fixing both their supply and demand side. So demand in terms of the demand from the industry about placing the right set of candidates, right? First of all, their requirements and then getting the right set of candidates as per the requirements.
Right.
While in the supply side, fixing the user acquisition channel from where we could actually potentially get a scale at a minimal cost. So user acquisition, I don't see user acquisition as just another performance marketing for me. Right? I mean, for me, user acquisition is completely different. Where because in the initial level for any startup, even till Series A also, if the CAC is very much controlled, right? If you figure out the way to actually acquire users at the minimal cost, that will be kind of very much helpful for you in the long run.
Right.
So that's what I have been fixing for Invac for last 3-4 months, and I think we have figured that out. Where currently the CAC is not even 10 rupees, I would say.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So this is the experience in the upskilling segment. I think upskilling, it's easier to actually scale.
Yeah.
It's easy to acquire users, right? Because everyone has an inherent, I mean, it's like I need a job, right? And then if I need a job, no matter whatever someone is saying, if I have even a little trust on somebody, I would pay for it.
Right.
As compared to K-12, where students will typically go to master teachers or someone who has a
Yes.
very premium brand image, right? That's not the case here. Here, anyone who could actually bring a student that and give that hope, give that trust that yes, we could give you a job, right? Potentially, we could make you job ready in 4 months. People are ready to pay, and I'm not talking about. I don't know why people still play in this space with 1 lakh to 2 lakh kind of pricing, right? But a sub 10K price is it's something which is much more scalable, right?
Right.
So that's where we are.
Got it, Kunal. Quite a journey. There are lots of questions. I'll just start off
Sure,
with
sure, sure.
one of the things that what fascinated me was, even when I was going through your profiles, and even in this short conversation, I see that strategic alliance has been one of the important things for you. And it's a very vague word, right? I mean, people wonder, what is this alliance you're talking about? It's just sales. You have a product you sell. What is this alliance, and strategic alliance? So can you share some practical use cases where you fixed it with strategic alliances? I'm asking this from a point of view where small businesses will understand from you, but then they'll apply it in their own way, if
Correct.
if they can. So if you can
Sure.
talk about
So,
this.
first of all, right, I believe that see, when a company starts its operations, right, it starts its user acquisition. They start it afresh. They think that they have to start acquiring the users afresh with a completely new approach. But I believe that someone somewhere, right, has already acquired your TG. I mean, whatever is your TG, right? But someone somewhere already acquired it. It's not that that TG you have to acquire all over again. Right? For example, government job space, right?
Right.
Textbook.
Right.
Textbook is selling government job preparation courses. Now look at job notification sites. Something like sarkarinokri.com, sarkariresult.com. Though they do not sell anything, right?
Right.
But they have all the relevant users coming on their platform to check when is the next exam, right? When is the application actually starting, right? Have the results been announced? If yes, then they go on the website, check it, right? So and if you look at these kind of websites, right, they have a monthly traffic of more than 3-4 crores, even higher,
Wow.
right? And then all these people are coming on the platform only to inquire about government jobs notifications. So they already have the user base. They are not selling it. That's another case, but they already have the user base.
Right. Right.
Now, as a startup, if I go about acquiring the users afresh, right, I might end up spending a lot of money on acquiring maybe even 1 lakh users, right? Because the CAC initially will be quite high for me, maybe 100 rupees, 200 rupees, whatever it is. Now, to just acquire 1 lakh users, I'll have to end up spending more than 2 crores. And again, I am not even sure that, how the retention rate will be or
Right.
how the churn will be, right? Maybe you end up spending 1 crore to acquire 1 lakh users. And by the end of 30 days, you are left with 10,000 users. Might be the case. So then that's too substantial a cost to acquire just 10,000 users. And where you don't even know these 10,000 users are going to pay you or not.
Pay
That's
you or
another.
not. Yeah. These are free users you're talking about.
These are free users. So, for example, this job notification site, right? Now, can there be something which is mutually beneficial for both the parties?
Right.
Someone who already has that user and someone who is just starting up, right?
Right.
Can there be something mutual, right?
Right.
If you stitch that mutual beneficial partnership together, you don't even need to look at anything, right? I mean, and then your CAC will be as minimal as possible. In fact, it could be even zero to a certain extent, right? For example, in Textbook, we figured out that Paytm has the exact audience which we need. Now on Paytm, right? All the people who are actually, so initially they had an e-commerce platform, right?
Right.
Where people were buying books, people were buying, so whosoever was buying government job prep books, now that was the audience which we need. Number one.
Okay.
That's something which is more direct. right? Where we know that, okay, anyone who is actually buying or ordering a, government job preparation book, he might be preparing for a government job. That's very obvious.
Right.
So it's
Right.
it's 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 very direct, right?
Yeah.
Now, something which is indirect is, someone who is buying a Redmi 5A mobile, which was actually launched back then, right? And someone who is buying a Redmi 5A mobile within the age group of 22 to, let's say, 35 years. Now, it might not be that direct, but indirectly, you will be still hitting almost 70% of your target audience, right? Now, could there be anything which could be stitched together with Paytm to, acquire those audience?
Right.
Yes, there could be something where, like the way you see these offers running with every, when you buy a phone or when you buy something, there are certain offers, right?
Right.
Now, what happens typically, a company like Byju's will actually run that offer flat across all products, right? Now that might not give you the right set of, results which you need. It's a very broader level attempt at acquiring users. But now, if you know your TG and, if you run this ad only on Redmi 5A mobiles being purchased through Paytm, anyone who is purchasing this mobile is actually getting a 3 months free subscription of test.
Right.
So, to a larger extent, the people who actually are preparing for government jobs will be able to redeem this subscription, and you are not incurring any cost, because Paytm will be more than happy to attach a 3 month subscription worth, let's say, 500 rupees with a mobile.
Right. Right. Right.
And then you get the users acquired, even if it's, we had 60,000 users acquired through one campaign. It's quite a substantial user base at zero cost, literally. I mean, yes, it's a cost at our end for the 3 months trial, but then, I mean, once the content is prepared, right, it was not a live course, it was a recorded course. So then it's actually not that huge a cost for us. Right? Now, any company who is, actually looking at acquiring users should always look at, I believe, should look at that way, rather than start spending money on performance marketing. Right? That is my audience lying somewhere. Can we do something together? Go all in and probably stitch a deal with that company. Right? And there are multiple ways to do that. For example, we did one such campaign with Textbook, where we tied up with magazine publishers. Now, what happened? Textbook they already had a partnership with S-Chan, where they were actually putting their 1 month trial inside S-Chan's book, R.S. Agrawal. So whosoever is buying R.S. Agrawal book will get 1 month subscription free.
Right.
For Textbook.
Right.
Again, it aligns, to a certain extent it aligns. But what I figured out, that book still has a very long shelf space. It has a very long shelf life, right? I mean, if let's say there are 100 books going into, the bookstore, probably only 10 will be sold in a span of 6 months. Right? It's a slow moving product. Right. So rather than doing that, what we did is we tied up with magazine publishers. Now, magazines has a shelf life of 30 days, right? I mean, yes. And there you tie up with the publishers probably who are at a scale, like, there are certain magazine publishers in the space called Upkar Prakashan, Kiran Prakashan. They publish magazines like Pratiyogita Darpan, Pratiyogita Kiran. And these are some magazines, right, which are pretty successful in the Hindi belt primarily, right? And especially for government job applicants. Right. Think of it, their magazine is costing 30 rupees. Right, and you are offering your 300 worth of subscription free with that 30 rupees magazine, right? Now they can certainly see that earlier, if there were, sales of, let's say, a total sales volume of X, now there will be some X plus delta. How much that delta will be, even I cannot tell you, which you will figure out in your first month itself. Correct. But even if there's a slight delta over your existing sales, right, that's a win-win for you, because you are not incurring any cost while we are actually acquiring a lot of users. And then, we are also ensuring that, yes, it's not slow moving, right? Because at the end of the month, the magazine shelf life will be gone. And again, next month, there will be a new magazine and new, trial from us for the same set of audience. So you will have 12 months, 12 times, you can actually approach the same audience, and probably some or the other time he might eventually end up claiming it, right? Redeeming it. Right. So again, multiple use cases like that, right? But at the heart of it, where is my audience? Correct. If someone has that audience, can I stitch a deal with that, right? And then acquire that. that will be ideal. I mean, why to actually go and start performance marketing campaigns and you spend money on that? Spend that money somewhere else.
Got it. Brilliant, to say the least. And when you said, you look at user acquisition in a different way, I get, and I can only imagine what you're doing with the Invact Metaverse city that you're working with right now, something like that. But got it. But you said in the magazine thing, right? You are literally exposing yourself to a 12-month free subscription, right? Or if
No,
somebody
no,
would
no.
have subscribed,
It's a, it's a,
you're
it's a, it's a
getting
1 month, it's a 1 month trial, right? And then you are actually exposing yourself 12 times to the same audience. So you have 12 chances for the audience to redeem that subscription.
redeem. Okay, they can't go more than a month with the same email ID or phone
So,
number or whatever
so,
that
so they
is.
can't, if they redeem it once, then next time they can't avail. So it's just a one time. I mean, that's similar to what Swiggy, Zomato does, right, for acquiring their new
Right,
users.
right. Got it. So, you said you are focusing, mostly on, you've always had an interest towards tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, because
Right,
you said, you come from one of those places and, you have an affinity and the ground reality. For example,
right.
what the students are looking for and what's being offered are very different. Now, two questions here, but first question is this. From a user acquisition point of view, Kunal, what is the difference you see, between a tier 1 city and tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities for a
Right,
company like Testbook?
right. See, textbook might not be the best use case because textbook
They didn't have
primarily
much of a turnover.
yeah, primarily their TG is tier 2, 3, 4. Tier 1,
Right,
it's hardly any audience, right? But maybe for a company like, Baiju, An Academy, Vedantu, I've not worked with them, right? But then it's a very different use case, not just in terms of acquiring users,
right.
even in terms of building the entire product itself.
Okay,
For example, with Daily Hunt, right? With Daily Learn, the previous EdTech firm, right?
right.
When we started off, right, I actually spent 3 months meeting teachers, schools, children, right, school going kids, their parents, the school principals, right. We tried to understand what the gap is, right. We got some insights and we figured out that yes, especially for the state board audience, their parents want their kids to somehow pass. Correct. I mean, they don't want that, it's a 90-95% marks in their board exams. If you are talking only about the board exam audience, right, they just want the confidence that if I buy this, my kid should pass, or maybe at best get a 60%. Right. That's
Right,
that's one use case where you can actually build your entire product based on that insight. That yes, this is what is specific to tier 2, 3, 4. I should not focus either in terms of the messaging or in terms of the overall experience, right? For example, what we did, we started building courses which we called online kunji, right? Now in North, there is a term which is very famous called kunji.
Kunji. Okay, what does
For,
that mean?
for, for the state board audience, right? What they do that, see, they don't have any, better learning at their disposal, right? So towards the fag ends, what they do that they
Right,
buy
right,
these guest
right,
papers, right? They buy these guest papers and they rely mostly on these guest papers. They only study that 100 questions and they expect that out of these 100, maybe the 10 or 20 will actually come in the exam.
right,
We translated the same ecosystem online, right? That
right.
yes, these will be the 100 or 200 questions which will be actually coming in the exam. And it's a very simple prediction. See, any teacher with years of experience, right, can predict what all questions will be coming in this year.
Correct, correct.
It's the same with CBSE also. Any teacher with good experience can easily guess around 50% of questions or the kind of question or the pattern which will be there in the CBSE exams.
Right, right.
Right. So that's one way to build a product which is catering to your audience and not
Hmm.
exactly the tier 1 audience. Second was, for example, that we figured out that we built a very detailed analytics, right? That this is the time spent on each question. This is the time spent on each topic, each subtopic. But we figured out that this is not something the audience needs. I mean, our audience,
Yeah,
it all the complex graph, right? It went beyond their head, right? I mean, it was very alien for them, right?
right, right.
What we started building where the same graph, right? The system translates into a audio message and then delivers it to the student. Now that is very much relevant for the student because it's actually talking about actions that okay, XYG, you scored very poor in maths, right? Especially in probability, it was 10 percentile, right? You need to brush up your probability. This is the link to actually go and visit the probability lesson again.
Right.
Now that works better as a immediate call to action for the user, right? And that's relevant also. Otherwise, graph dekhkar, I don't know whether he will be able to understand, not understand, right? So again, I mean, product-wise, these are very finer insights. The more and more you know your users, right, you'll be able to build your product better, right? And I would say, I was talking about this product because I cannot disassociate product from user acquisition, right? I mean, if your product is good,
Right.
if
Yeah.
your product actually understands, your typical use cases, user acquisition will also happen.
Right.
Of course, in user acquisition, you also talk about messaging. The messaging has to be very different for the tier one audience, tier two, three, four audience, right? In terms of user acquisitions, which are channels you are using to acquire users. For example, in government job, right, or in upskilling, for example, right, we were capturing students who were struggling to get a job, and
Right.
they could be the right audience for us to actually provide upskilling courses. Now, look at that audience. One way to identify that audience is again, indirect audience, but look at someone who is between the age group of 22 to 30, maybe 22 to 30,
Right.
and who is frequently visiting all the motivational videos on YouTube, right? Uh,
Right.
now again, that's the kind of audience, that that person is in a phase where he's still trying to, maybe he's still struggling to get a job, their first job, or probably they're stuck in a phase where they want to get out of it, and that's the reason they're going to these motivational videos, right? So again, I mean, you need to know your audience better. I would not say tier one or tier two, three, four, right? I mean,
Yeah.
tier one or
Yeah.
tier two, three, four, product will be different,
Yes.
messaging will be different, right? Acquisition channels, I mean, could be different. Maybe you focus more online in tier one and you focus more in offline interventions in tier two, three, four. That could be one differentiator. But otherwise, no major differentiators as such in terms of the user acquisition channels. Right? You will use Facebook, you will use YouTube, you will use Google Ads, you will use all the other attributions. That will not change.
Got it, Kunal. And can you tell, so Kunji means last minute preparation, something like that, is it?
Correct, correct.
Got it. Got it. Nice.
It's
Uh,
basically a compilation of all the important
Important
questions
questions. Right.
along with their solutions, their video solutions. Then
Right.
we created a course out.
Right. It's very interesting. Whatever you said about tier three, tier two, tier three, tier four cities begs a question. Do you think education is one product where the creators are assuming everybody wants to score 100%?
So it's I mean, that's why I say that students have very different needs, right?
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
students want to, not every student wants to score 100%. That's something
Right.
which I figured it out very well, even with the parents also, right? There are a lot of students who are happy with just getting passed out of their board exams.
Yes. Yes.
There are a lot of students, who know that I'm not capable for a IIT entrance. Maybe I'll just do a BCom, or after I plus two I'll do a BA, BSc,
Yeah.
BCom. I'll not be going into that mode at all. There are a lot of students who start preparing for government jobs right after 10 plus 2.
Right. Right.
So not everyone is into that race to score.
Yeah.
The question which you asked, right? Now that's something, a phenomena which can be associated to tier one audience, or at best tier two audience, because see what happens. Tier one audience, it applies, and tier two audience is in that aspiration mode where they want to actually move into that segment of tier one, right? So probably they could also buy this story, but tier three, tier four might not.
Yeah. It's,
That
and
is
you know
what is
what?
happening, right? I mean, all the middle class now wants to look at getting transcended into upper middle class, right? So that's
Right.
the same
Right.
phenomena happening in the student space also.
Yeah. And interestingly, if you go to the other side where you're talking about, upper middle class people, where there's not really that much pressure and
Correct,
where there's so much more freedom, there is again, it ties back to tier four. Even they're not looking for 100%. So do
correct.
you think there is a gap in market where there are not enough players who are explicitly saying, hey, you know what, you just want to pass, this is all you need. Do you
Correct.
think there's a gap for this?
See, what we figured out, right, that even if we said that I will help you pass,
Right.
and even if we knew that this is what the parent need or the kid need, right, people were not buying it. It's more like the nano effect, right? Where you have a car, you are saying that yes, this is a car which is the cheapest car in the market, right?
Right, right.
Or this is a car, which will actually help you replace your scooter. So when you are associating, scooter, cheapest, right? Even though they need it, actually someone who is actually going into a scooter and might, buy a car after selling maybe at that point of time 50, 60,000 extra only. It would have made sense for him, but somewhere it hits their ego. That this is why I will buy this. No, what will people say, right? And then there is this tendency in parents where, especially in Bihar and UP, right, that they, till the extent they even brag about their kids being, actually studying in a Fiji or maybe in an Allen, right? The name of the brand where their kid is studying, right? That matters for them. Forget about the name of the brands. Even they feel that a greater sense of pride when they say that my kid is actually in Bangalore, my kid is actually in Pune, it's in Delhi, rather than saying that my kid is in Patna, for example. Right?
Right.
So they know probably at the end of the day they also know that their kid is not going to crack JE,
Mm.
but just for the sake of that status, right? Sake of that, I would say what people will say about me or talk about me, right? Let me have a let me send my kid to a Fiji or to a Kota, and then just brag about it, right? That's also true to a certain extent. So it's a combination of both, right? Even if the audience needs it,
Right.
but the way you project it, they'll not accept. Very, very, very.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, what is to lose in aspiring? You may not become 100% of first rank. At least go try something. Probably very tricky thing,
It's their ego, right? That why should I buy something where it's claiming I'll help you pass? I'll buy
pass.
something which
Correct.
is claiming I'll help you getting 100%. Even though
Right.
they know that this is not my need, but it hits their ego that I'll not buy this.
Right. Right.
That's what we
This.
saw, right? That when we started tying up with the Super 30 teachers, people were buying, the same set of audience were buying all of a sudden, right? But initially there was a lot of difficulty in us, with us to actually acquire users and bring them in, convert them into a paid user.
Right. uh, I'm sorry. I might. This is not very irrelevant, but it is a little. I can't help but remember about one of my first few podcasts I had with a person. His name is Indrajit Balotia, and he's from West Bengal region, and he runs a business called as Champ for Life. He's a pro golfer. He used to be a pro golfer. He used to be India's number one during the early 90s. He runs a academy called Champ for Life for athletes who are in a dilemma whether to take up athleticism or, to take up education, right? Because
Understood.
it's a hit or miss. You might
Correct.
be great, but you're not going to make it big in a sport. So he started something just for a backup for athletes or sport people, for sports persons, sports aspiring people. You spend just minimum amount of time for a backup. You get your degree,
Understood.
and you'll be focusing majority of your day in sports only. uh, I I mean, how do you look at this from a user acquisition point of view? In fact, you know what? I'll talk to Indrajit and to you later and see if you can connect and do something, because he's got it everything built right. He's just in that stage where he needs user acquisition. Uh, I'd like a couple of thoughts from you about this. The way you would analyze this, or
Can you
the way
just
you.
again? What
So
exactly is the product?
the product is they've taken curriculum from NIOS, National Institute of Open Schooling, I believe. The
Right.
curriculum, they've taken it from there. They've condensed it to an extent where these people are very clear about not focusing on education or getting high marks. They just want to have a backup degree. That's it.
Correct.
Therefore, they've condensed it to so much. They have to spend 20% of the time where others spend, 100%, 20% time,
Right. And
they are just
remaining
going to
80%
pass.
you spend on skilling yourself in the sports.
Sports.
Understood.
Yes. Yes.
So that
Like
gives a greater sense of, I mean, to a parent also a greater level of confidence that yes, the child is actually completing the studies at the same time.
yes,
Yes, understood. Now one thing which happens, I see it here, is that see why there are very low enrollments in any sports, today in India by a parent. It's not just about completing a degree. Think of a student who is spent 10 years training for, let's say, being a cricketer, for
right,
example.
right,
Now, he spent 10 years, right? He, even if he did this by NIOS, right? He completed his basic education.
right,
But basic education is equal to, right, the kind of education which you might need to advance in your career normally. Right?
correct.
Now, if he loses, for example, someone who is into class 7 or 8, he started, getting the trainings for cricket,
Yeah,
and till the next 20, he's of 20, 21 years of age, he is actually completely into cricket. Right?
right,
And
right.
at that point of time, somehow, if he is not getting either into IPL or into a state Ranji or even, forget about the national level, right? If he's not
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
even
yeah.
into League Two, then whatever money, whatever, they have spent, whatever the child has given his time, right? Everything is now gone.
Right.
Correct. And then that chance is, to be honest, not even 1 or 2%. From a parent's point of
Yes,
view,
yes, 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 yes. Yeah.
right? That's not even 1 or 2%. So it's a very high probability that at the end of the day, the money plus the time you spend, everything is gone. And then,
Right,
at
right,
21 years of age or 22 years of age, you are back to a stage where you don't have any professional education, right?
right, right.
And you now look at that, what I need to do. So then you will start your journey all over again, right? So that's a bigger worry rather than actually, the worry that, okay, my child will be actually completing even the basic education. That's of course one of these. But if in India, if a child is, even if he is decent, right, he can complete his plus two studies at ease. I don't know what is the audience of this company, right? But
Right.
till plus two, yes, parents could buy this. But after plus two, no one will buy it, because in India, anyways, when you go to a college, until the college is not the top 100 colleges in India, right? Or 200 colleges in India, you might not even be required to visit the college daily, or
Right.
give more than 20% there, right?
Right.
So that's not such a major worry or pain point for an audience to pay for it, especially when the kid is in college.
Right.
Maybe in a school, to a certain extent, yes, they could pay. Again, all the parents, so think of it. There's a mismatch in terms of the audience, right? It's a paradox
Mm.
actually. See, what happens? Look at who is the parent who will probably enable their kids to prepare for a sports. Typically, the upper middle class
Upper
parents.
middle class. Yeah, yeah.
Now, and who are the audience, right? Who want their kid to be enrolled and complete their education from an NIOS. It's typically the not even the middle class, right?
Correct, correct. Economically
So,
weaker sections, maybe. Yeah.
so it's a mismatch, right? Again, I would say, correct, that while the parent is, upper middle class, and I'm associating NIOS,
Right.
again, I don't know. I mean, I told you just right now, I told you, right? There's an ego problem with the parents.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
how
yeah.
the parents will
Exactly.
react to it, right? And
Right.
possibly, if it's doing well, I'm not sure, but if it's not, then, that could be one major reason for the same.
Mm.
It's a paradox, right? I mean, at one end,
No, very interesting. Thank you for this perspective. But still, I think you this is just what I told you in 5 minutes, and then whatever you've told is in such a short period. But I still believe I'd love for you to connect and see if something can be done.
no,
Just because, yeah, we can probably take that offline. But Kunal, coming back, you spoke about user acquisition not being different for tier 3, tier 2, tier 4, tier 1. It's the same, but you can't disassociate the product.
correct.
Now, how much impact does the language of transmission of knowledge plays a role? For Because tier
Yes,
1, it's assumed it's English, but tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, we are still struggling. So
correct.
has that been a major factor for you?
Yes. So vernacular, right?
Yeah, vernacular.
It's obviously important, and the way I see it, see typically what happens that anyone assumes that vernacular is the translation of English into that respective language, which might not be the case. It's not just
Right.
about
It's
the
not just
simple
translation.
translation.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
about localization. It's about contextualization, I would say. Right
Yeah,
now,
yeah, yeah.
localization, I'm saying, for example, you are from Kerala, right? You have certain twang, a certain accent to it, right?
Yes,
Now, if
yes.
you go to Bihar and teach students, there might be a disconnect. But if you teach students in Kerala, right, there'll be a very greater level of connect with the audience, right?
Right.
So again, even if you are teaching in English, right, but if you teach it in Kerala with your accent, right, and if you teach it in Bihar with your accent, the results will be different,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Just similarly, let's say UP and Bihar and Haryana, right? Haryana and Bihar. We had a Haryana based course, we had a UP based course, Bihar based course, right? Bihar state course. And the kind of language which a teacher from Haryana was using, right? The accent, everything. It was a different experience as compared to the teacher in Bihar was using. So, though we could have actually taken the same Hindi course and delivered to the audience in Bihar and Haryana, right? But we knew that that won't work. It has to be localized to that region.
Right.
And then I mean contextualize. Contextualize, I mean if you are from Kerala, if I'm teaching you maths, right, and if I'm actually quoting examples from a boat race, or maybe from forests or something which you are already familiar with,
Yeah.
you will be able to better relate to it. And when I'm in Rajasthan, maybe I'm talking to a student, I'm quoting examples, someone is in Jaipur or Udaipur and Jodhpur, right? I'm quoting examples from sand dunes, right, or a sandstorm.
Yeah.
Now, or maybe even the heat wave. People will be able to relate to it because that's what they have been encountering in a
Correct.
day-to-day life, right? So that's what I mean, that it's a combination of language plus localization and contextualization. If you combine all these three, then it will make sense for the audience. Otherwise, just translating from English to the local language might not be that relevant. And that's what mostly firms do, right? I mean, they just translate from English to that
Yeah,
language.
yeah. Did you manage to bring in localization and contextualization in the projects
Correct.
that you
For,
did?
for, for Bihar board and Haryana board, yes, we were able to clearly differentiate both these courses to a larger extent. Of course, it's a cost-heavy exercise,
Yeah.
goes
So
without saying, because
yes,
I mean, it's easy for you to translate the same course into 25 languages. Actually localizing and contextualizing for 25 different states.
doing it from the scratch.
Yes, and you need teachers who could actually deliver that in that exact one.
Right. Um, Now, Kunal, you've worked in, you mentioned very in a very simplistic way about the four ways in which you've divided education in India, right? And you seem to have worked in all of them equally. On a From a very high level, EdTech started way back when a company called Educomp, with the smart
Correct.
boards and stuff like that
Yes,
came
yes,
in. Now
yes.
they're a
Way back in
corporate.
2009-10, I guess.
Yeah, that was the big thing. Every school you could see Educom school and stuff like that. But it's so it's changing so much. And today we are in a age of the metaverse, and that's the future. We are somewhere in between. So
Right.
how do you look at this entire landscape, and where do you see it going, at least in India?
So again, I mean, for each of these four segments, the landscape will be different. The future outlook will be different. Uh,
Right.
Way back in 2020, right, when we started off Daily Learn, I actually reached out even in 2021 also to a lot of VCs for fundraising,
Right.
and our pitch always was about hybrid because we know in future, right, even though COVID was at its peak, and people were actually lapping up for anything online. Any company, even with slight traction in the online space, were raising funds like crazy. But
Right.
we knew that hybrid is going to be the future, right? Because COVID at some point or the other has to subside, and when it subsides, right, people would have some initial level understanding of online ecosystem, but they would want to
Right.
go in a offline mode, right? See,
Right.
it's in education, right? Something which is largely missing. You think yourself, right? You learn better when you are learning in a community or with your friends, right? In your
Right.
college, right? Probably you, I don't know, whatever your education background is. So we
In
always used to
engineering, and
have
yes, I
group
agree.
discussions,
Group
case studies
studies.
with our
Yes.
group
Yes.
studies. I mean,
Yes.
that's something even in schools also, right? That's something which is largely
Yeah.
prevalent. But look at EdTech, and then not just group studies. A lot of students move to Kota, not just to actually prepare for JE, right? They move to Kota for making new friends, moving
Great
out
point.
of
Right.
the moving out of the monotonous set of people they are with, right? They just move out of that whole ecosystem to a completely new one, make new friends, right? Learn new practicalities of life, and then that's one of the major factors for a student to decide that yes, I want to go. Now, in edtech, right? The more and more you're talking about personalization, right? This very ethos of learning in communities, it's getting away from the picture, right? I mean,
Right. Right.
you are actually enabling a person to study in silos, right? They're not studying together,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's largely missing, right? And then somewhere, I think education will evolve. I mean, hybrid is just one phase of that, where both is getting achieved to a certain extent. People are actually getting the best of the content online while they are learning offline, in hybrid centers. Right? Somewhere it's getting achieved to a certain extent, but ultimately, it has to evolve in a way where there'll be a very greater level of community engagement, in it. When you are learning today, when you are learning with group of 100 students, you are hardly making any friends. You don't
Yes.
even know who are the other 99
Who?
students.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have so that in ISB, when you go, right, in IIMs, when you go, right, more than the learning, it's the alumni association which is the strongest, right?
Yes.
Now think of, in any edtech or even in upskilling courses like upgrad or great learning or simply learn, right? That community based learning is completely missing, right? The association with the fellow students is completely missing. Even if you pass out in the same cohort, you don't know who your other team members were, or probably who are the other fellow students.
Right.
Sooner or later, I think, in education that will evolve on a very broader level, right? How it will evolve, again, I mean, companies, if they come to me, I'll take some consulting and tell them, but I mean, sooner or later that will evolve.
Great. But I can't help but invent metaverse cities. So, do you think you don't have to go too deep, obviously, if that's something you think you can consult instead of sharing. But do you think metaverse is gonna somewhere bridge that gap between online education and the community thing? I don't know. My
To
idea
a
was okay.
certain extent, yes, but particularly INVACT is not focusing more on metaverse. Metaverse right now is something which is it came like a
Nascent
fad,
stage.
and yeah, it came like a fad, and again, it's somewhere not that significant, for anyone. But
Absolutely.
somewhere in the future, right, that might be a stepping stone for any edtech firm to move into this community engagement, because that can fulfill that gap to a larger extent, right? And like you
Right.
can actually select certain group of friends, you can actually create a
Yeah.
backbencher,
Yeah.
all that is possible in metaverse.
Yeah.
So yeah, certainly, I mean, right now it's not getting that prominence because people are only focused on using metaverse as a unique selling experience for the students, right? But more than a unique selling experience for audience, if they take it like a community engagement tool, and how to build very tighter communities in that space, right? I think it might be useful for the companies.
Got it, Kunal. Kunal, I've got a couple of questions, but before we go there, can you, for the sake of our listeners, share whatever you think is metaverse? What is metaverse? Purely from a, not even from an education point
You
of
know,
view. What is your understanding of the metaverse in a simple language?
see, in a very simplest term, right? Metaverse is the real life simulation of offline experience, right? where you are going and watching movies in a theater.
Right. Right.
Now, of course, if you are not going and watching movie in a theater, right? Can that experience be simulated in your home or on your mobile or on your laptop, right?
Right.
If not 100% to a larger extent. Again, I'm talking that all such experience where you need people, right? I mean, see, mostly people go out
Yeah. Yeah.
to basically interact with people, right? And then that
Socialize.
interaction
Yeah.
is missing, right? Socialize. Now that is missing, right? So if you could make that experience where people are able to socialize, right? Where people are able to, so like I talked about the EdTech courses, right? If people are able to know
Yeah.
that yes, these are my friends, these are people who are studying with me, right? And build a greater level of engagement with them. That's what metaverse is, right? I mean, we are talking right now, but think of a use case where probably either I would have been at your house virtually, right? Maybe we
Yeah.
both are,
Yeah. Exactly.
and if or maybe think there are students who are studying in a classroom, right? And some 10 students in the back bench have formed their own separate group. The teacher is actually teaching, these 10 people are talking on their own, the class is happening simultaneously, right? Someone is doing something, and it's visible to the entire class and the teacher, right? Now all that is possible in a offline experience, but it's actually possible in the metaverse also to a larger extent.
Metaverse. Right.
Someone is going to a library, someone is sitting in the canteen, all that is possible.
Right.
So it's just about the simulation of the offline experience.
Got it. Now, you know, a few years back, right? Now, AI is at least, in real life, we can see a lot of AI in a very genuine form, maybe. But a few years back, AI was just a marketing keyword. There are a lot of people freely AI based this, AI based that, and stuff like that. And what it was back then and what it is now, there's a huge difference.
Okay.
Drawing a parallel to metaverse is that stage where it's very early stage, and it's a marketing heavy term as of
Right.
now, is the way I see it. uh, what is that marketing, just to fulfill that marketing term? What are people just doing for the sake of it to fulfill that metaverse promise? And what could it really be? What it could really be, we just discussed. But what is happening now? What is being offered now in the name of metaverse?
See, again, take this use case of Invact, for example, right?
Right.
We are not pitching metaverse as our core USP, even though the name is Invact Metaverse. It's not our
Right.
core USP. Our
Right.
core USP, over the period of time has changed, where this is also operating in the tier 3, 4 space, and equipping
Okay.
students, who are normal graduates, turning them into a professionals over a period of 4 to 6 months.
Right.
Right now, with the course in finance, where we enroll a normal graduate, train them for 4 to 6 months, and get them job ready
Right.
for any job in finance, right? Maybe equity research
Right.
analyst or credit research analyst. And metaverse is just an experience for the time being. It's more like right now to be used as a wow factor, that yes, our core is
Yeah.
where I help you get a job, but
Right.
that learning will happen on metaverse, which is a different experience or a wow experience for you, right? And then when you give that wow experience to the audience, right, while your core is still intact, that will add a lot of value, right? I mean, you are not digressing from your outcome. You are still focused on the outcome. It's just about the experience, and that's what
Right.
mostly people are doing, right? Where it's being used, or it should be used to a certain extent, even in for till the time metaverse is actually evolving. It should be used as an experience for the students, an additional experience.
Right.
But that should not be a core USP, because no one is actually coming to a class for metaverse experience. If
Correct.
someone is getting enrolled in a JE prep course, they are actually getting enrolled to compete in JE, right? If someone is getting enrolled in upskilling course, they're actually enrolling to maybe get a new job, or maybe get a promotion in their existing job, right?
Right.
So the outcome still should be at the forefront. It's just about the experience which is there.
Got it. Kunal, when it comes to education, there is formal education, and then there is alternate education, or need based education.
Yeah, just give me one
Right.
minute. Sorry, just
No
one
problem.
minute.
No problem.
Yeah, tell me.
Great. So there is education which is kind of needed to fit into the framework as a society we have. For example, the degrees, the K-12, the
Right.
stuff. And then there is upskilling, which is kind of voluntary from the students, right? They come in search of you. You're not, it's not a compulsion, but then, out of their own volition, they do it. So one of the important things, at least from the other courses that I've, exploring, user engagement is a big talking point. Um, you know the normal statistics say that less than 10% complete the courses and stuff like that, right?
Right.
So how has it been in your side of things, like say K-12 or government jobs? What has there been a challenge with user engagement?
So it's just completely different to upskilling. See, upskilling, what happens, right? That the users are enrolled at the beginning of the program itself.
Right.
There's a course, and you are directly enrolling students in the course.
Right.
Unlike a government job or a K-12 experience, where think the use case of Byju's, right? Now their app is primarily a user acquisition channel for their courses.
Correct.
Or for an academy, whatever they are doing online is a user acquisition channel for their offline courses, which they are
Offline.
focusing
Yep.
on now. Right? They are
Yes.
moving more into offline.
Yep.
Right. So edtech firms like these are actually using the online experience as a user acquisition channel, because that's, I mean, if you have 20 lakh, 30 lakh, 1 crore users on your platform consuming free content, or very engaging content, and you're providing some value to them, right? It becomes very interesting for you to now know, let's say you have 1 crore users on a app, and now you could simply do a funnel analysis that, okay, these are the 10% which are coming to the app on a daily basis and spending maybe 5 hours a day on my platform, right? And these are the students who are coming every alternate day. These are the students who have not visited my platform. Maybe you start bifurcating them into separate buckets, right? And then start approaching them differently, correct, for the engagement.
Mm,
Ultimately, with
right.
each of these segments, your aim is to drill them down the funnel to become a paid user. Now, typically, either you could start with all 1 crore with the same approach, or you start segmenting. Then, with the same approach, with different approach for each of these buckets or segments, your efficiency will be better. You know that someone who is visiting your platform on a daily basis, spending 5 hours, they could be converted to a paid user much faster. So probably the engagement cycle will be lesser, or maybe even the plan, right, to engage with them will be quite different as compared to somebody who is just coming on the platform once in 30 days, or probably who has not consumed any content for the last 6 months, right? It will take a greater level of effort for you to engage, make them engage with the platform, and then bring them the values which you want to deliver to them. So again, I mean, that differs. I mean, engagement is a subset of basically, I mean, what you want to drive from that engagement, right? I mean, if you want
Yeah.
to, and I know at which stage they are, right? I mean, the stage where they are, that also influence to a certain extent that, I mean, how they will drill down the funnel.
Now, for a company like Testbook, right? Now, user engagement, as you said, there are two levels, maybe. Once is before they become a paid user, and then after they become a paid user. After they become a paid user, maybe it becomes user retention. That's the right
Correct.
word, maybe.
Right.
How does user retention statistics matter for a company like Testbook? If it's a one-time thing, because they're not going to be coming back again as such, right?
No, it's not a one-time thing. So think of it, right? In government job space, uh,
Okay.
for an audience, it's more about that, they are not just preparing for one exam. Unlike JE, where you are only preparing for JEE, you are not preparing for anything else. Your intent is to get enrolled into IIT, or maybe NIT or other respective colleges after completing this JE, cracking this JE.
Right. Right. Right.
But in a government job, right, you are not competing for an exam. IBPS PO, competing for IBPS alone is not your aim. Your primary aim is to get a job. And to reach that job, there could be multiple avenues, be it IBPS, railways, SSC, clerk, right? Anything, PO, whatever it is.
Right.
And then you are taking 10, 20, 30 exams over a period of 3 to 4 years, 5 years, right? And then, sorry.
No problem.
So, I mean, that's something which is critical for you. And some people might, clear the job in 1 year, but typically people struggle for at least 5 to 6 years. They keep on appearing for multiple jobs, and maybe after 5, 6 years, some 5% of them will succeed. I mean, sadly, that's the best case scenario, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So even for a company like Testbook, right, it's it's not just about how many people are appearing. So for example, what happens? Bank PO, 20 lakh people are appearing for Bank PO this year. Now 20 lakh is not the universe. Maybe there are another set of people who tried for Bank PO last year or who will try for Bank PO next year, but this year they skip. So that's not the total universe if you assume it,
Right,
right?
right.
Same with NEET, right? I mean, or UPSC. If UPSC, 1 lakh people are appearing, it's not just 1 lakh people, who are appearing are only preparing for it. There are a lot of people who aspire and who start preparing for UPSC much before they actually prepare for the exams.
Right. Now, when I speak to course creators and then curriculum builders, instruction designers, they talk about things like different modes of consumption by the students. Some of them are visual, some of them are auditory, kinesthetic, and so on and so forth. Are these factors discussed in companies like Testbook, where you're talking about lakhs of people, in fact crores of people, or is it just a standard sort of a thing? Is this even a part of the discussion?
I mean, you are talking about the kind of theatrics we see by the creators or something else?
Yeah, yeah, very much. Right. So let's say, for example, a same course can simply be made into published as a textbook, and the same course can be made entirely as a video with
Right.
maybe quizzes and stuff like that. So, do you cater to all students? Because some people may be interested in reading, some people may be interested in just listening, some maybe want to watch something. So, do you cater to all these people? Is this even part of your strategy and
No, I
methodology?
don't think that should be the strategy at all.
Okay,
When you prepare for it, right? I mean, think of it. You are preparing for a job, right?
right.
Now, if you're preparing for a job, your intent is to get the outcome, right? Which is to get a job. Now,
Right.
how you reach to that
How we,
outcome,
right.
it's you as a user, you will not think about it, right? I mean, no matter whatever the creator wants you to believe, as a
Hmm.
user, you just want to get a job, right? That's your intent. Maybe yes, it can happen that as a user acquisition channel, something very unique might catch your attention and you get onboarded to that platform, right? But
Right.
nothing more than that. I mean, you at the end of the day, still to reach that outcome, you need a complete learning experience. If that learning experience is not there, if it's just about, say, for example, again, I should quote, not quote. I'm still thinking, but yeah, there's some program, right? Some XYG
Yeah,
program
yeah. If you
which is
feel
being
later you
delivered
shouldn't
to
quote, we can cut it off.
which is being delivered to students in a audio only mode, right? And then it's
Right.
it's it's this course is MBA course being delivered in audio only mode. Now, no matter I mean how uniquely you position it, right? But something which is completely audio only, maybe it's good for acquiring users at the top of the funnel, but actually it's going to help in the outcome, which is to make a student job ready. After the end of this course, I don't think so,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
You're right.
it might be a good user acquisition channel for them, but nothing beyond
Got it. Kunal, you mentioned complete learning experience. What do you mean by that? I'm sure that's what you, as
that.
you were at least
Correct.
believing you were giving from textbook or wherever you were. So, what according to
No,
you is
wherever you
complete
are,
learning?
right? Wherever you are, you have to think that what's the outcome which you want to enable for your audience.
Right.
Uh, is there any simplest way? What are the use cases? For example, in textbook, right? Or in any government job, more than the learning, right? Or the video or the live lectures, it's more about mock test. The more mock tests you give, right? The more confident you are, and and more experience you are, and then it will be easier for you to crack that. If you talk about K-12, right, there it's more about the conceptual clarity which a student needs. Right? I mean, more than the tests, it's about the conceptual clarity. And then once you have the clarity, then there is a test where you are being assessed on that conceptual clarity. Again, some people might think that just a quiz might be sufficient as an assessment. But if you actually want to test out somebody on their conceptual clarity, the assessment has to be much more evolved than just a simple quiz. Right.
Right. Right.
So, or probably in case of upskilling, right? People think that just MOOC or a collection of videos is sufficient for a people to upskill, and that is the reason why you have only 5% or 3% completion rates, correct, in upskilling.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
for the outcome, right? Whatever you are teaching and whatever the industry needs, right? Are you actually bridging that gap? If you are bridging that gap, then that's the complete learning for its audience, right? I mean, you are hiring some sales professionals, in your company, and I have just taught them that look at these videos, right? I'm giving you some tips, these strategies, right? But he has just gone through videos, right? That person has never in his life sold a single product, correct? He has never faced any objections. He has never actually been there in the market, right? Now, obviously, when he goes to a proper job, he will struggle for initial 3 to 6 months, and that's why companies typically have that training program, right? So they hire them as a trainee, or they have a 1 month or 2 month of very very integrated training programs. But why not actually start implementing these while you are delivering the training to him, right? I mean, what stops us from maybe giving a practical experience also apart from the just a learning through videos? Maybe there could be a way to evaluate these students through all those practical evaluations or assessments you are having for them. Then once someone is getting, maybe someone who has actually sold products, who has actually given 10 mocks to me, and then he's coming to you applying as a sales professional, I mean, you will also see that audience or a applicant with a high regard, and possibly whatever you need him for, it will match. So it's not just about the format. It's about the outcome, right? That for
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
outcome, are you having the complete learning for that audience? And it will vary. It might not be the same for a segment. It will vary across all segments. For every segment, there's a different outcome. There's a different way to reach to that outcome.
Got it, Kunal.
Again, very 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 layman term, right? I mean, not using any jargons or anything. Very in a very simplest
No, no,
terms.
no. Yeah, exactly. Makes complete sense, actually. Um, Probably those things apply for a very niche kind of a course or something like that, where you're looking at 5 students in a cohort, or,
Correct.
10 students in a cohort, or whatever it is. But, our audience are mostly, let's say, small scale edupreneurs or teachers,
Right.
who are working somewhere, who are coming out, trying to establish their own brand as an individual and trying to go forward as a solopreneur. How should they look at student acquisition? If you want to give them some principles to follow and go about user acquisition, what would you say?
Again, I mean, there is no shortcut to user acquisition, right? I mean, like I told multiple times, reiterated, there is no shortcut to it. I mean, many people now feel that through theatrics, for example, right? Even if there is no substance in the content,
Yeah, yeah,
probably I
yeah.
can acquire users. You might actually end up acquiring users. I mean, not denying that. But
Right,
will that user be actually sticking to you? That's the question.
right.
Will that, you might get a lot of audience, but will that audience pay for you later on? That'll again be a question. So no matter whatever you do, right, the core of your product should always be linked to the outcome which you want to deliver to the audience. If that is not linked, if you are actually just doing it for the sake of doing it, right, then user acquisition won't help, right? I mean, think the use case of PW, for example, right? It started as a YouTube channel. Again, the audience, if you stick with the audience, right, the audience is connecting with you. Or there is somebody called Khan sir in Bihar, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So again, I mean, Khan sir gained prominence because of the style. But if he had only the style of teaching, right, it would have faded. Maybe after a time, it would have gone, down.
Right.
But when you actually listen to such videos, right, you will understand even the complex of terms in a very simplest way. For example, Khan Academy, right? I mean, if you look at their content, no flashy, extremely
Yeah,
simple
very simple.
blackboard
Yes. No nonsense
text, right?
approach.
No nonsense. But then the way they explain a concept, probably even if you are not a student of science, right, and just go to their platform, you might be able to understand the complex terms of physics in the easiest way, right? I mean, that's the way they actually break it down for you. So again, I mean, if you are doing that, right, then no matter what is the format or how you are delivering it, right, all that is, it hardly matters, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and again, in terms of the audience, right, I mean, acquiring audience, a lot of people think that, being visible is acquiring audience, which is not the case, right? I mean, it's, if it's that simple, then, today Facebook can launch an online course and they start bombarding every student with that online course and they will assume that people will buy, which will not happen,
Right.
right? So it's not just about, reaching out to as many people, sending emailers, sending, SMS. Product is the core. If the product is not substantial, if the product is not that efficient, right, it's not thought well, no matter whatever you do, you just will not come to you.
Got it, Kunal. Kunal,
So do not compromise with the product for everyone else, right? The
yeah,
core,
and yeah, and also when you spoke about, you took the example of cancer, you said it was not just about his style. So I think even if there are 10 people with the same amount of expertise, I think the differentiating factor would be what they as a person bring uniquely. I think you're going to
right?
have your own audience, and probably, that's where you need to trust the system
Right.
and just go ahead with it.
And do not try to think that you can capture entire audience. You know your audience, right? For cancer, it's a
Yes.
very specific audience, correct?
Yes.
For
Yes.
anyone else, it's a very specific audience. Now,
Specific.
Alak Pandya tomorrow, if he tries to approach the audience of Byju's, it might or might not work. No one knows, right? So you need to know your audience and stick to that audience first, right? First, bring the traction in that audience, then move to probably other segments later on. So this is very important. Who is your audience? Drill
Yeah.
down as much as possible.
Yeah. Got it. Kunal, to conclude, I would like to ask a little, let me ask you this question. So, you started your story about Daily Learn, right? You had to shut it
Right.
down. I got a feeling that you felt you were pretty ahead of your time. Probably at that point in time, you said Geo wasn't there, 4G wasn't there, penetration may not have been there. What do you make of this? Do you just think, okay, it is luck, destiny, or do you still analyze and learn something from it?
See, basically, the key is that even if you are ahead at times, right, what happens often in the journey, and of course, I mean, there are factors which are responsible for it, which where I was not having any control, but I still feel that, had we actually sustained, had we actually, still somehow gone ahead with it, right? What happens while on our journey, right? We take 50 steps and then we all of a sudden, right, again leave that journey. That no, this is not something which is working out. Let's have a pause. But
Right.
even if it's a slow journey, right, you keep on moving. Some or the other time, right, the paths will keep on opening for you. I strongly believe in that, right? And I feel that
Right.
that's and that's the hustle which anyone, I mean, if someone is starting off, they should have. They should not be leaving or quitting early, right? They should persist. The more they persist, the paths will keep on opening.
Awesome. And probably final question. Most of your experience has been in the B2C space from a user
Right.
acquisition point of view.
Right.
Uh, are you also comfortable with B2B?
So we worked in B2B space. I did not tell you. So in the higher education space, right, I was working with a company which was selling publisher content to educational
Right. This is
institutes.
K Nimbus, correct?
Yes, Nimbus and Informatics, these two firms. Right? So they sell it to college libraries or university libraries. Right? So again, this was pretty much into the B2B space.
Got it. So this is, they had a fixed content, and then they would, it's like, publishing books and giving it, but then they did it digitally. But K-Nimbus, they just focused on distribution, or they also held the rights to the content as well. Was it original
No,
content?
so Nimbus was actually digitizing the libraries in the institute. See what happens,
Right.
libraries are mostly in not digitized. It's still in a physical mode.
Right.
and a college need to subscribe to e-resources. And even if there are e-resources, they also need to have what we call, in a very technical term, is federated search. So in a very very simple way, you're in library. Your college subscribe to 100 publishers content. Now, for example, today if you have to search malaria or some, you are researching about malaria. What will typically happen? You will have to open each of these 100 websites, publisher websites, and search the same search string 100 times. Right?
Right.
What Nimbus does, it gives a Google kind of an interface, front end interface, and
Got it.
collects
Got it.
all these 100 websites in the backend. So you search only on one portal, right? And the results are actually coming from all the subscribe resources, which
Got it.
makes and that's the, in a very nutshell, right? That's the primary business of Nimbus, selling this to the libraries.
Got it, Kunal. And Kunal, on your LinkedIn, it says, I know you're working with Invact Metaversity right now, but it still says part time. So
Correct.
yeah. So what does your future look like? I mean, are you working on a project in stealth mode or something? Are you building something?
No, no. So I had a kid, right? A small kid I have.
Right.
She's around
I saw
14
that
months
you.
old.
Right.
Yeah, she's around 14 months old. So I thought to, actually just be in this mode, keep on advising firms, more. Maybe I'll have more consulting assignments with other firms, but really for the next 4 to 6 months, right? I'll just be in this mode, spend more time with the family.
Got it, Kunal. Great. Kunal, it was amazing conversation. The way you simplified user acquisition was, I hope people who are even doing small businesses who may not have as such big scope for strategic alliance as you mentioned, I hope they find something in a small scale. I hope
Sure.
whatever you said inspires them to do that. But thanks a lot. It was amazing talking to you. Thanks
Same
once
here.
again for taking out your valuable time.
Thanks.
Uh,
Thanks, Jagmeet.